short selling. There's been a myth in the marketplace for 10, 15 years that there's a crime going on that's very difficult to understand. It's arcane. You have to know a lot of jargon to even understand it. But it's as if the savings of America are in a big fish tank, and some people have figured out how to open a spigot and just drain it out, and nobody up on top can really see that this is happening. Well, it sounds lunatic, and I didn't believe it. I heard it, some version of that's been floating around the market since the early 90s. Didn't pay any attention. So people started getting in touch with me about 3 years ago and asking me to talk to me about it, and that telling me to look into it and stuff. And I was saying, no, I dismissed them all. And what eventually happened is one guy got through, and I put him on the speakerphone as I was packing up a suitcase. I'll never forget. And he described this very arcane thing for about 45 minutes. And at the end of it, I was saying, fine, buddy, I understand, and thanks a lot. And he could tell I was giving him the brush off. And he said, look, I can tell you're giving me the brush off, so I'm going to make a series of predictions. And when these come true, you call me. And the predictions are, here's a set of 5 journalists that are going to call you, and they're going to call you and do hatchet jobs on you. None of them had ever called me before. Secondly, so you're going to get these calls, Patrick. You're going to find yourself the target of a federal investigation. You're going to find yourself trading on some foreign exchanges that you never heard of, that Bahamas and Australian stuff. And fourth, the SEC is going to start publishing a list of companies that are seeing a certain oddity occur in their stock. It's called the Regulation Show Threshold List. And when they start publishing that in a couple months, there's only 0.5% of companies are going to be on it, but you're going to be on it. I said, okay, buddy, okay, thanks. Hung up. Well, over the next 8 weeks, every one of those stories came true. In fact, on that trip that I was packing for, the journalists started calling me. Well, that was odd. And the power of any, the journalist called me. We became the object of an FTC investigation that was sort of a very flimsy investigation that went nowhere, and they dropped it. We started trading on exchanges in Stuttgart, Bavaria, Munich, Bahamas, having nothing to do with that. And when this list came out, and there were only 30 or 40 companies out of 7,000, when the list came out, we were on the list. Well, the power of any theory is its ability to make predictions. And if someone could make that set of predictions, you got to look into it. So I started looking into it. I spent about 3 months and buried in it. And I gradually realized the guy was right. There is this crack in the financial system, and the savings of Americans are being drained out of that crack. There's one economist who says, a serious economist who says it may be tens of billions, maybe hundreds of billions of dollars have been stolen through this crack. Now, what is the crack? A normal stock trade is you're buying stock from me, you give me money, and I'll give you stock. That's called settlement. Believe it or not, there's a loophole that exists in the system. And when the time comes for me to give you the stock that you bought from me, I can give you just an IOU basically for some stock. Now, you or I couldn't do this, but big hedge funds and prime brokers have ways of doing this. And all they're really giving is an IOU. And you never know that. You get your brokerage statement from Merrill Lynch or Morgan Stanley, and it says you got the stock. Well, no stock ever came. All you got was an IOU. It happens only about 1 or 2% of the time. And the loophole was probably created for some good reasons, that you want, if somebody signs the wrong piece of paper or somebody's dog eats their certificate, you want them to be able to say, you don't want the system to freeze. But what seems to have happened is some hedge funds have figured out how to manipulate this loophole and inject hundreds of millions or even billions of these, what are in fact fake shares, into the market. Now, it creates 3 effects, 3 problems: a small, medium, and a large problem. The small problem is it's ruined corporate democracy. And there was an article by Bob Drummond in Bloomberg Markets magazine mid last year that's called The Corporate Voting Charade, where he has people on the record in the back offices of Wall Street, the transfer agents who actually count votes, that say, with quotes like, "This is positively criminal. We regularly do not have any idea who's entitled to vote and who isn't. We regularly get 2 to 3 times as many votes as there are shares." Now, as crazy as all that sounds, the New York Stock Exchange did a study on 341 elections, found overvoting in all 341. Why this is a problem is after WorldCom and Enron and such, the American government's solution was to these corporate scandals of the early 2000, 2001, 2002, was to tighten up corporate governance. Well, corporate governance, meaning boards of directors, that's based on corporate elections, which is built demonstrably on quicksand. The whole system is broken, and you can look this article up, and it's even the SEC just 2 Tuesdays ago came out and basically said fixing this problem is going to be our work in 2008. They had a market regulation.
2008.
So that's the small problem. Everything I just described is the small problem. It's a complete hoax. Corporate democracy is now a hoax because of this overvoting problem. If you have all these fake shares in the system and people voting the fake shares and they all come in, there aren't really, believe it or not, there aren't even any rules in it on which votes get thrown out and which don't. So that whole system is a charade, and that's the smallest of the three problems. The mid-sized problem is you can destroy companies using this technique. If it just really happened by random human error, you'd see these fake shares, these phantom shares scattered around the market, like peanut butter spread over a sandwich. They'd be spread evenly. Well, the SEC hired an economist named Leslie Bonney to study this, and she did this statistical analysis and saw where they're concentrated, and she says, no way this is happening by random human error. It's massive, it's endemic in the system, and it's clearly being used to manipulate. It's clearly being targeted. And how it's used to manipulate is you go after a small company, small cap, meaning 300 million, 400 million or less. You pick a biotech or a financial company or just a technology company where it's easy to create a lot of misdirection and smoke and mirrors about. You couldn't do what I'm about to describe. You couldn't do it to IBM or Microsoft. You can do it to small companies. And you just flood the market with fake shares in their companies, and you can crack the market. And if you can do this while you have a couple of your shill journalists just write stories after stories banging the company, you can basically drop it to nothing. And if it's a company like a biotech model in America has always been, angel funding, small venture rounds, a couple of venture rounds, goes public, and then it sips at the capital markets for 5, 10, 15 years as it develops drugs. Well, you can snap that life cycle. The company will collapse, and you can walk out with its market cap, and maybe you can walk out with that market cap 2 or 3 times over. So, is that going on? Well, 3 years ago, the SEC was saying this is a myth. This isn't a myth. They finally faced enough public pressure that they passed a very tepid Regulation Show, and it said that they were going to start disclosing the names of companies that are seeing excessive numbers of these phantom shares in their stock. And they actually said on their website, the SEC website actually said, we have to grandfather, that is, we have to forgive all the phantom shares that are already in the system because we're afraid of the volatility that might result from large pre-existing open positions. Now that's bizarre because a month or a year earlier they'd been saying this isn't going on, it's a myth, it's all wacky. And then they came out and said, well, okay, we're going to try to do something about it, but we have to forgive all that's in the system because if we don't, it's going to crack the system. I've been down this rabbit hole so long, it's hard for me to tell what normal people see. Do you see why that's contradictory?
Well, all right, you guys. Not very many people here. But yeah, say a prayer for Southern California. Thank God that, the audio was low. Well, it was as high as I could turn it up. Sorry. Anyway, some of you have probably seen that video. I kind of put that in for evidence to base, there's guys that come on here. I think they're all from Borough Park, it's my guess, in New York. But they come on and they say, oh, it doesn't exist. Some stocks deserve to be shorted and all that. And they try to continue the idea that this doesn't happen. It does happen. Problem is, it's pretty powerful guys set up against us. Everything's, so we don't want to be Don Quixote. We want to be Hulk smash or Superman or, oh, good boy. All right, so I'm going to try to see if I can do this, get him in here. He wanted to start at the start. All right, so I'll go there. See if it works.
Battery 100%. Connected to Bill's iPhone.
I'll look at Northwest Bio. The stock's not trading today, so.
Hello.
Hey, you're live if you want to be.
Oh, tell us about your update. You know more.
I haven't said anything to anybody. You told me you wanted to be on when I did, so.
Yeah, okay. So tell us about your update.
So I tried, for the first time I've tried it, I recorded an interview just about 5 minutes ago with Martin Shen, CEO of Finger Motion. He told me he only could do 10 minutes or so. And anyway, I think I got it to around 30 minutes, although the way I did the recording, some of it in the beginning is just me by myself. But anyway, it's roughly 30 minutes. We went over several topics. We went over the audit. We went over the warrant/dividend. We went over use of proceeds. We went over such that we could third quarter earnings. I tried to get him to talk a little bit about guidance, but he couldn't. We talked about the Chinese New Year. We talked a little bit about how the Chinese market is discussed as being in trouble. Will that have an impact on the government contracts for what's called his C2 program? And we also talked about Sapientus and the insurance companies. And that was and Roth, he talked and praised Roth Capital. And we talked about the research report that should be arriving soon. So that's the interview.
All right.
I mean, you want to hear what he said.
I want to hear. You gave me the recap. Okay. What I want to know is, let's talk about the audit and the special dividend. What's the
all
update?
right? So he talked about the audit, and by the way, he didn't want to do it live. He wanted me to release it either late tonight or in the morning tomorrow, which I agreed to. So you'll be able to see it. Unless I screw up somehow, you'll be able to see him answer these questions. But what he said about the audit is it's a 2-year audit. It is a process, or as I think he said it, process. It's a requirement with the PWCB or PBWC, whatever the heck it's called. And anyway, they're doing it. And a lot of things are held up while they wait, but it's close to being finished. He didn't have a specific idea when the audit would be done, but it's soon. It's going to be completed soon. It did not have, the fact that it was not complete did not have an impact on Roth Capital, and Roth Capital discussed the audit with the auditors, and it also hasn't, if I remember correctly, it's not going to hold up the third quarter earnings report either. On the warrant as a dividend, as you know, I've expressed that I'm worried that the SEC could delay it and there could be delays. I asked him, and he said no. Okay, anything can happen, but as soon as the audit's done, Finger Motion will provide that to the SEC, and he's optimistic, with the proviso that anything could happen, that the SEC will act quickly to approve the warrant as a dividend.
So between us, he's basically saying what we all believe, that the dividend is coming. Go
Right,
past these
and
little,
he
go
cited
past these little hang-ups, whatever it may be. Listen, they have to go by the law. The criminals hit a sell button. So if he has a little delay because of this, we can't, no one can, it is what it is. We can't do anything about it.
right,
But it is coming. It is coming.
right, and he's more on your side of it, that it should be imminently. You know, it should be maybe in 2 or 3 weeks, whereas I was worried it could be delayed a month or two. So that was good news. That was on the column of good news. It was a good interview. Then he discussed the use of proceeds, and that's the key. Why did you raise $5 million? What, you know? And he said the main purpose for the raise was what he called the ERP program, Emergency Response Program. I think it stood for. He named it, and what they've named C2. And he talked about a little bit about that, and he described it. I'm not going to be able to, but what the vehicles, and they put, and it's all, what was interesting to me, and you knew this maybe, Ham, is that the whole reason the governments are turning to them, they're able to access the data that they get from their mobile relationships with the 3 telecoms. That data helps, or is, the whole raison d'etre of these ERPs. That's what's in these systems. But anyway, he described what they have to buy and all that, and that's what the money's for. That's money for. They're going to have a head start on the New Year's celebration. They're getting to work right away, so that was good. And he also said that this ERP project should start to show up in their fourth quarter earnings, and that's going to be good to look forward to. So that was
that is the government contract on the emergency response. You're calling it CRP. I don't know what the hell
C2. C2 he called it, and he called it ERP. But
okay, whatever. It's a government contract on those emergency response vehicles.
That's it.
So he had said before that they have to lay out money, and it takes 2 months to get it back, or 2.5 months, or something like that. So I guess laying out the money is draining them, their capital. Maybe that's why they did it. That's what we thought.
Yeah,
so that's probably what it is.
He talked a bit, just because my memory went there. He talked a bit that they will raise more capital, and he described why they did the capital raise with Roth, and he really praised Roth Capital. He said, look, we could have accepted other money, but it would have been lower. And it would have been these, as he put it, these pricing mechanisms. And we said no to all that. We just didn't want to go down that road. Yes, it's less than we wanted, but it's a one price. It should be a floor. He said that.
And that's what I said.
Yeah, and he said, like you just pointed out, it's the use of proceeds. It gives them the capital to do this. He did talk in the future that they may raise more money as they need to grow, but they're going to be very careful with the deals they strike. And that gave me some confidence. I forgot to ask, but from the last interview, he's going to be tight on how many shares he puts out there.
They know you have to protect your capital, your market cap. These guys are destroyers. Listen, how many companies have had their market cap destroyed, had to reverse, wipe out all the longs, and wipe out short positions because the short position is gone. Because they owe the stock to the long stock is gone, so the short position is reduced.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy. And one thing I wanted to discuss this just to get away from what you're talking about now. If I hear one more person call me up and saying there's a short squeeze because this company did a reverse and this and that, listen, people, you can do it. You go play those games. But these companies have been destroyed. And I don't even know why everyone's racing to go play stocks that had the reverses already. I can almost guarantee you that these things are reversed and squeezed again to be sold short again at higher numbers. I wouldn't doubt if the shorts are behind squeezing these stocks up. Okay, I know people are making money from it and all that nonsense, but at the end of the day, if you watch all these stocks that have squeezed, I'm sure someone did the data on it. If you go back and look, they all have these big spikes and they all crash back to earth. So I don't believe in playing stocks that did the reverse already. And I'm glad that Finger Motion is basically telling you they're staying away from any of this completely mayhem dilution to grow their company, which is, to me, is great.
I probed him on the third quarter earnings, and as you may well imagine, he couldn't really say anything. But within a week, he thought they'd be out. And I will just quickly, to my memory, we did talk about the fourth quarter earnings. And he is optimistic. He does believe that the fourth quarter earnings may turn positive, and I'm using my own words. But the fourth quarter earnings are going to give us good guidance on what could be, he expects a positive earnings year for his 2026, which is our 2025, basically. So that was good. We'll have to.
Well, listen, let me just put it in basic English. Basically, you're saying that he expects this company to turn to be profitability and whatever coming up. It's not going back. It's not going deeper into the red. It's going towards profitability. That's what we can get.
That's right. And
that's so. And my buddy, who's a Wall Street pro, told us in Atlantic City that time, once you go profitable, the shorts are dead. So whether it's a month, 2 months, or 3 months, it's coming. And you know what? These guys can play all the games they want. The dividend's on the way. The company has the money. The floor is $1.50. You're hearing it from the CEO using the same language. He liked Roth Capital. I told you my friend works there. It's a good firm. I don't know exactly who their clients are, but they're always the same, hedge funds looking to lend money out to the same people all the time. Did they short it? Did they buy it back? The CEO would never know that. We could tell by watching the trading in the stock. But again, any idiot that's been selling the stock below $1.50, in my opinion, is a complete buffoon. You have no idea what you're doing in the equity markets. And if you tossed it out of the window because you're disgusted, hey, that's what happens on Wall Street. Tesla crashed from whatever down to 200. I'm sure people bailed out and turned and went back up to 400. Donald Trump's stock went down to 12 on the rumors that Trump was selling his stock. I told you he wasn't selling it. And what did it do? It turned and went to 57. We were ahead of the curve on that one. All right. So down, up, sideways. You know what? As long as the company's going in the right direction, I'm good with it.
I forgot what I was going to say. Maybe I'll remember, but that's okay. He also talked, you mentioned Roth Capital. He really spoke highly of the funding effort Roth Capital did, and you can listen to that. But he also emphasized there is, in fact, a Roth research report, comes from a different side of the firm. And he said, I think I'm quoting exactly, that'll come out as soon as possible. I don't know what that means, but that's good.
All right, so we have a research report coming out. We got the earnings coming out. We got the dividend coming out. We hope President Trump smacks these assholes from here to prison. And so we got a lot of things in our favor.
I do want to.
Money.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Did he say anything about big data? Did he say anything about that?
Just
Well, I'm asking.
before I forget, I do want to say that in terms of turning profitable and all that, that's a projection, not a promise. I mean, anything can happen. All right.
Yeah, no, listen, again,
Uh,
listen, it's going in the right direction, whether it's this quarter or the next quarter. Listen, the company's future is bright. That's what I want to hear. What day it happens, that's not I'm not worried about that. I've been waiting 3 years. It doesn't make a difference. Another 2 months, 3 months, it doesn't make a difference at this point.
Well, at your rate, you'll be able to beat the construction of St. Peter's Basilica.
Yeah. Well,
You've
listen,
got 95 years to go, and you can beat
Right.
them. He did not specifically talk about the cloud computing aspect, but he did talk about Sapientus, which is their big, for lack of a better word, their big data arm. He said that part of the proceeds might go there, part of it might go to SMS and other things, but the bulk of the proceeds is going to the ERP. But we talked about Sapientus, and he talked about the insurance companies, the laboratories. I asked him, where's it located? What stage of monetization are you in? And I asked, don't the insurance companies pay for everything? And he confirmed that's true. And he doesn't know the stage because the insurance companies are being very careful. They're going slowly, but they're making progress. And I got the impression we're not too far off. Does that mean 6 months or longer? I don't know. But they want to get it right. They want a product that makes money, and they can put the weight of these large insurance companies on. So I took it as a positive. Sapientus is moving forward. He's being very patient with it because it's a big part of the company's future.
Well, listen, again, that's a business that's going to be around a long time because there's plenty of data and they all want it. So that's, listen, I can deal with the company turning into Snowflake or, what do you call it, Palantir, I forgot the other one, PLTR, whatever these big data companies are. He had once spoke about, he compared finger motion to Snowflake maybe 3 years ago, and that's the direction they wanted to go. And it's getting closer. That's like a $70 billion market cap company, right? And he has more data than they ever had. So listen, it's all good. Like I've been saying, it's all good. Nothing's bad. The company has the money. What's the panic about? That the company could raise money in the future? Well, who knows why they would need money in the future? As long as they treat it properly, the shorts are going to get squeezed. It's just a matter of when. And when that happens, the company should raise money when it stops running at a high level. So if they sell, let's say they raise $10 million at $30, that's what you want to do. And that brings that average that they sold stock here at $1.50, 30. What are you talking about? $19 then on an average? That's okay with me.
So how come all the stocks are flat today? Now, KYP wants to know your thoughts on ZJYL, MLSS, GBUX, and how you're going to feel when she kicks your butt on that.
Okay, well, number one is MLSS. I sold 3,000 yesterday on the close at 126. I needed to make a sale. William was right. I couldn't take it anymore.
See, I predicted it, but I was early.
You were early. I sold it at the high of the day, 126. At the last trade of the day, they took 3,000 of it. But my friend thinks that the stock is going to $3 short term and then higher longer term, but I'm not here for that event. So as it starts to go, I'll tiptoe out and I'll sell little pieces all the way up. And that's what I'm going to do. ZJYL, I haven't put money into it yet. I wanted to take the money when I make sales in MLS to buy finger motion. That's what I wanted to do. I said that yesterday. ZJYL, KYP is a stock I'm very interested in, because that's the only stock that did a forward split, a 20-for-1 forward split, not a reverse. That means if you're short 1 million shares, you're now short 20 million shares. So they made the short position 20 times worse, whatever it was. Now, whoever's involved there, whatever's going on, when they decide to go for them, it's going to be a good one. I just don't know when it's going to go. It kicked off last week. It went to 250, then crashed right back down. I have no idea what that was about, but you can see how quickly this thing turns. I do find it interesting. They did a 20-1 forward split. Remember that. Different. All these other companies, GNS, MULN, COSM, Root, all these companies, I can't remember them all, SYTA, they all did reverses and they made their float smaller. This company made their float bigger. And the people that owned it before, when it was $300, if they weren't selling it at $300, there's no way they're selling it at 80 cents or 90 cents, whatever it is. So I just think it's, when it wakes up from its coma, that's when it's going to go. I don't know when that is. Same thing with GDC. GDC went from 3 down to 60 cents, back up to 12. We exited. I have not. It's still $2. Think about that. That stock was at 50 cents, and now it's firm at $2 again. So, I mean, that looks like it's going to get ready for another launch, but I don't like to buy. I'm not into it. Unless I hear something. If I hear something, I'll let you know, but I haven't heard anything.
The CEO just did an interview with me, which at his request was recorded. Also at his request, unless I screw up, I can release it late tonight or first thing in the morning, which I'll do. And he's described what he's going to do with the capital.
William, put it out at 8 o'clock tonight so we can all watch it before we go to bed. I'm not staying up late tonight to watch it tomorrow morning.
You're just an old man.
8 o'clock, put it out tonight. The football game's on tonight. Put it out tonight.
Football?
8 o'clock. 8 o'clock.
I thought football was finally over with.
No, it's college football. It's a good game. Notre Dame against Penn State. And you know what? I was kind of cheering for Penn State, but after seeing the Notre Dame quarterback go on TV and praise God, and what a well-spoken, good guy this kid was. He looked like he's 12 years old, and he just praised the school, the coach. If anyone has a chance, go watch that guy's interview. I don't remember his name, but it was just great to see someone, it was great. It was just great interview. So I'm kind of rooting for him. But please put the thing out at 8 o'clock tonight. 7 o'clock would be better because the game starts at 7:30. And if I have to miss any of the game, I'll try to time it for halftime. But put it out so everybody can see it. We can talk about it, and we go from there. And then tomorrow morning, I don't want to wake up tomorrow morning studying a video. Let's get everybody to look at it, understand it, and we can all go from there. And I haven't seen the people. William told me he did it. He's going live, and I said, give me a call. I'll jump in, and I'll ask the questions. You know as much as I do, everyone.
I think Bill Michael's a real person, but I can't tell. But her is my finger prediction. If the latest earnings are subpar, the CEO doesn't have a constructive conference call, stock goes below $1 and eventually a reverse split. Well, thank you, Bill, for your prediction. Let me just respond to a couple parts of that. Third quarter earnings are not going to be exciting. They're just going to be, they're going to be like the second quarter and the first quarter. They'll probably be down a penny, down 2 pennies, 0. It's just going to be the great break even to slightly down. I don't think the CEO is planning on an earnings conference call, so don't look for one. If the stock were to go down below $1, it would have to stay down there. I forget, you can look it up, but it's something like 30 consecutive days. And then the company has 6 months to recover. So I think you're creating.
He's making stuff up. Listen, whoever's saying that is mentally challenged. Let's put it that way. You have no understanding of Wall Street. And you might as well just come out and say it's a shit company. and that we're paid pumpers, and might as well just throw out all the other stuff that the short sellers yell about. That is a nonsense report. You know what he's doing? He's yelling fire in a theater. And you know what? If it does break down, we're going to scoop it all up. I will make sure I scoop it up because you're basically a moron.
Well, I mean, in fairness, any stock price can go down. That's just the fact. That's just the fact.
Listen, look at MLSS. I paid $1, went to 65. It's $1.30 now, $1.26. You know what? But the company raised money at $1.50. And if you don't have any knowledge of Wall Street, okay, if the stock were to break $1, I will personally call up Martin or go see Martin and tell him to take $2 million worth of out of his 5 and go buy the stock back and reduce the whole float again. He'll make 60 cents trading the stock. What's better than that? Then resell it again when it goes back up again. Use the money to buy back the stock. How's that one? All right, so he can reduce the float. All right. If he does it, he can use 2 million out of 5. Let's say the stock does break $1. He could buy 2 million shares at $1, okay, and reduce. He only sold 3.3 million. All right. So 66% of the stock he could buy back and put money in his pocket and resell it again when it goes back up. That's the way to do it. Just like trading. And I will get him to buy the stock back. Trust me. But that statement is moronic. You know what? Apple, iPhone suck. The CEO's a fraud. The stock is going to go down. You name it. Anybody can say that stuff. Go ask Andrew Left how he's doing spreading fake rumors.
And that's in the short run or in the intermediate term, anything can happen. And but being negative, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine to be negative.
That's nonsense what he's saying, number one. And number two, when you come on these calls, and William, these calls are ending because this is retarded. You're going to go on my conference calls and there'll be no more questions. And we'll just talk with ourselves and give you our opinions. Because I don't need people to come on here that work for Jeff Easton or are short sellers spreading nonsense. We're not their voice. All right? Go post on, get a fucking crayon and get out of here. All right? Every short seller says the same thing. They try to befriend you as a long, and they want to cast doubt. The stock is going to break down, and you got to sell it. You got to sell it. The company raised money at $1.50. At least come up with a smart statement. Roth Capital they're not stupid. My friend is a professional. He worked at Oppenheimer for 30 years as a vice president. If he's at Roth, he's not a stupid guy. All right? Roth Capital will do the right thing. My friends are there. I didn't know about this raise. I knew they were talking to him about research. I even said it on the call that I heard it was research. All right? But Martin said that they were good people and he felt comfortable and he did it. All right? What are we supposed to say now? Go look at all the other companies. Go bash MULN, all these other companies, CELU, go get KNW, GMGI. Go bash those companies. Those companies had debt spiral notes on it. William, I'm not going to put up with these people that are presenting or stating moronic things. They have no idea about the equity market. The stock is being manipulated by Jeff Easton and his offshore buddies. That's your beef here. Not that the company's stock is drifting lower. It's being manipulated lower. And if you don't understand that by now, then you're a fool. We've been talking about the same shit for 3 years. The company survived. Think about that for a second. This company survived an all-out attack by thieves and scoundrels. And now it's going to go the other way. All right, we didn't want to see this. These guys have been nothing but notorious, attacking the stock from Jeff Easton to Capybara. What are you supposed to do? Our hands are tied behind our back fighting these criminals. The game has been slanted, but now it's going to go the other way. And I'm happy I'm in the right spot. No more of this, William. I'm not doing it anymore. You come on my call. We'll do an 800 conference call. You want to listen, listen. If not, go fuck yourself. I don't care. Sorry, KYP. I'm only not for you.
So Cliff is mostly in finger. Would it be a good move to move some back to DJT for January 20 and a possible pop, and then go
listen,
back to finger.
It's hard for me to tell you what at $35. I don't understand how it's even shown any signs of weakness. You know, DJT is not a profitable company. Okay. I really don't even know what the hell they do. They're building a business. Okay. You got the president of the United States is the biggest holder. Pam Bondi's a holder. Cash Patel's involved. I believe he's going to have to say something for all public companies to go after naked short sellers. He just can't just say it about DJT. So this is my opinion. Why would I buy a $35 stock? Okay. If it's going to be a blanket statement for all naked short sellers, why wouldn't I buy the stock that's $1.20? Instead of buying 5,000 shares, I could buy 20,000 shares. That's how I'm thinking. If DJT is going to work, so are we. The company's coming behind it with a special dividend. We'll get that in the video tonight when we see it, and you'll get that too. So, and that's a way to trap the shorts. You know, so I think I have people long DJT, but they got deep pockets, and you know they can play that game. If you don't have a deep pocket, you know, I wouldn't be buying stocks at 001 like DBMM and ask me what's going to happen there. I don't believe in those names. I think those stocks are too far gone. All right. But I do think a stock like Finger Motion or CVM has already crushed himself 50 times raising money. He's destroyed his company. Same thing with Northwest Bio. It's basically under attack. You know, they need that news from, you know, that cancer treatment. But who knows? Maybe it rallies. Northwest Bio has got great, you know, their medical stuff is supposed to be great. I don't know. But find something that you can get more for your money. You know, what are you going to buy? You know, if buying 1,000 shares at 35, you got to put up 35,000 to buy DJT. You could buy 30,000 shares of Finger Motion. You know, I'm just trying to give you the best idea as far as using money. DJT can go to 100 and you make 65,000. A Finger Motion goes from 1 to 10, and if you paid $1, let's say you paid $1.20, and you got 30,000 shares, you're going to make 270,000. You know, that's why people play small cap stocks because they can afford it. But you got to be smart about these small cap stocks and being ones that have good fundamentals and are solid. If Roth Capital's doing a research report on Finger Motion, you know, what more do you want? You know, it's a pretty good firm. And like William, we both thought, William, they actually did their due diligence on the company, right? They spoke with the auditors, you said? I forgot what you said.
Well, I don't know if that's what I can't remember now that we've been talking. I don't know if I put that into the conversation or he did. I can't remember, but you'll see it. You'll see the interview and figure it out. All right. So that answered that. Do you think ZJYL could move quickly?
100%. I just don't know when. Listen, ZJYL and GDC have this stigma of being a Chinese company, you know, so it's not going to get the same. Finger Motion is a different class of a Chinese company. It's a U.S. company doing business in China. Those are Chinese companies that we're talking about. You know, I don't know how they treat them in the U.S. I don't know.
Richie,
You know,
I don't know the reason why he asked me to do it tonight or tomorrow, but I agreed to it, so I'm going to do it that way. He didn't want to do it live, and I think that's because it's sort of a quasi-quiet period with Roth Capital and then the earnings next week. He didn't want to risk saying something that he shouldn't. So anyway, I did it the way he asked me to. I don't know why he asked.
Listen, William, did he speak?
Yeah,
did he answer the questions?
He spoke.
What more do you want, everybody? He did it. We could, William, if you like, don't put it out. And then we sit here, we in the dark. I mean, we should be all happy that we got it. Go ask these other companies. No one speaks about anything. You got the guy to speak. What more do you want? He's answered my questions. I'm happy.
Why didn't
I'm not going
Finger
to say
go?
it's going to
Why didn't Finger go to Univest for funding? Look, Anthony, they signed that deal, I think, a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. Univest obviously either didn't do anything, didn't bring a deal that was acceptable, or when they interviewed with Roth or someone else, they realized that if we're going to do business with someone else, we got to get out of that deal or we're going to pay 2 commissions. They tried Univest, it didn't work. That's all.
They should have called Goldman Sachs and see if they would do it for them. I mean, listen, if you're working for somebody, you don't do the job, you're not going to continue doing business with them. If their job was to find you suitable investors and it didn't happen, for all I know, their investors died. I don't know. Who knows?
Do you think we're in an accumulation phase in Finger until good numbers come out? And do you see short sellers with the news about the how does Ham see the short sellers as of now with these?
I see the short sellers dying, right? Listen, there's bashes all over the place. That tells you that we're close, all right? When you get a lot of, what they call it, when you get all the flack being shot at you, you're over the target, right? When you get the most flack is when you're over the target. They're bashing me, calling me a scumbag, whatever they want to say. I could care less. All right. The company has taken money and it's a $1.50. That was the low. William, you just said the CEO wanted to do something that was a one price deal, not a calculation or a debt spiral like Lynn does. All these guys do the same thing. They want to do, the stock is free trading. We can't hold it down. They're all full of shit. They manipulate the stock, right? So let's say Roth did manipulate the stock. The best they got was $1.50. Maybe the company could have got $1.75, $1.80. They robbed 20 cents to get it lower, right? But the company now has the capital to do what they want. All right. And that to me is, I'm not thrilled about it because I never like any dilution, but everyone needs to focus on the government of the United States has basically fucked all of you. And to come back and focus on the company, I think you guys are completely wrong. The company is doing everything they can to fight for us. Trust me, I know big holders and they all agree with that. The United States, the SEC, FNGR, the NASDAQ, they all fucked everybody. And now payback is coming. If Trump says something, everything reverses. And I believe I'm in a good company. I don't think MULN's a good company. I don't think COSM is a good company or all these other crazy names, KNW. Finger Motion has done the right thing the whole time. And I told you, my friend paid 10 for it. And he's not bitching.
I think you can get a lot of flack if you listen to Killing Me Softly.
Is that a joke? I don't know what that is.
It's not that funny because they all think they all think Killing Me Softly was done by the Fugees.
I don't know what that is. Okay.
Killing Me
That's
Softly
Roberta Flack.
with
Roberta
his
Flack.
song.
Yeah.
Roberta Flack.
Okay, now I get it.
DC musician.
Again, people, Jeff Easton, his buddies, his cohorts, Benchmark, they all work together to steal. And everyone here is focused on yelling at the company. It's the opposite way. What would you like the company to do? Go rob banks? They got to build a business. They have to file. They have to get audits. They have to do this stuff all by the books. The criminals just hit a sell button. I say it every day. It's the same thing. If you're pissed off, go to the SEC and ask them about Jeff Easton. Go there, knock yourself out. We tried everything. 15 times I reported them. 15 times. And by the way, I raised $30,000 to get the report for Tom Ronk and buy-ins.net. I don't hear anybody else. I hear crickets from everybody in the audience. I raised $30,000 to get the report. Crickets. When I bought the truck 15 times at $2,000 a pie, what do you call it? Each time we did it, we had one time the shareholders kicked in, and I thanked everybody for it. But I didn't go around begging for it. I raised the money through big shareholders, and I took care of it. That's just fighting to get stock settlement, to get these crooks arrested. I'm not doing it for fun. I got plenty of connections on Wall Street. I can go buy stocks nice and quietly and not pay attention to anybody. When MLSS goes to $1.50 and I sell all my stock, let's say, and I make a 40 cents average, 40 times 60,000 shares, it's a nice month to $24,000. Doing nothing, month and a half, whatever it was. I can get those all day long for my friends. And I was nice enough to share it with you. And I told you about GDC also. When I bought it, I paid too high. It broke down. I was not happy, but I averaged down and I told you. And when it ran, I told you I sold it. And when it pulled back, I told you professional people are buying it back. The easy money was the spike. If you want to play the danger game, trying to catch a falling knife, that's a different game.
I too like to play dangerously.
GDC, after the spike to 12, trying to catch it and catch the bottom so it turns is very difficult. What else, man? Go ahead.
Can you explain the dividend one more time in finger, please, for Nick LaMonaco?
Okay, Nick, this is going to be, this is probably 90% of me trying to, I don't know the exact number of the conversion. I'm just going to make it up. Let's say it's $3. If you own 1,000 shares, it's supposed to be 10 for 1. So you're going to get 100 shares of a free warrant. All right. It'll be a separate symbol. It'll be FNGR. And the other one's going to be FNGRW for warrant. The warrant is the right to buy the stock at $3. So it's like a call option. Only you don't have to pay for it. But you do have to pay for it later on at $3. You could sell it, you can trade it, you can do whatever you like. So let's say the stock goes to 100. You can convert it at 3. The company will get $3, and you make $97 profit for your 100 shares. And now it's a gift from the company, a gift. And that little gift will help the company raise money at $3, right? When you buy, you have to give them $300 for that, right? And the company will get that money. But the best part is, if you're short, they must deliver that warrant. You won't be able to sell in your account unless there's something delivered, because it's a different QSIP. It's a whole different company. So it's being created to fuck the shorts, plain and simple. And if the SEC's listening, you know what we're doing. If you like, go call Morgan Lewis Bacchius, because they helped design it with me. Fuck you. And we paid $1.2 million to Morgan Lewis to design this. So, and William, there's other ways to create a dividend. How about taking the A share, the FNGR, splitting it up, making it 90% A, and the dividend will be a 10% B. So you're just splitting up the common from A to make it A plus B. And the only thing you can do is convert the B back into an A. So you can trick them on that also. There's a whole bunch of different ways that are being discussed. That's all this is being done to stop naked short selling from offshore into the U.S. to steal our money. And I don't want to hear anybody angry at us because we're not doing it. I wish I was doing it. Because guess what? Some of the retail people and the questions they ask are so stupid. No wonder they rob everybody. Because most people are uneducated. And I thank you for listening and trying to educate yourself.
There's a difference between uneducated and stupid. And Wall Street doesn't want you to understand it. They hide it.
That is correct. They don't want anybody to know who. Nobody ever knew who Jeff Easton was. I didn't know who he was. I had no idea who he was. Till he popped on. I never heard of the Kramers from Long Island, those penny stock scumbags. I don't know them. They were all over the place. Who knew Hal Mintz? The only place I would have seen that guy was at a buffet stuffing his face, that fat fuck. I don't know that guy. But they're all over the place. They all taught each other. Someone taught the Kramers taught Hal Mintz taught Jeff Easton. That's how it works. If you don't have relationship, you can't do this crime. These guys all know how to navigate money offshore. That's the common thing with all these guys. My bank is a Chase Bank, not Chase Bank, Switzerland. These guys have numerous LLCs. They move money all over the place. They all been taught by somebody to do it. We're trying to stop a major crime against the United States. That's what we've been fighting for. And I told you before, I have kids and I have grandkids, and they're not stealing our money. And if you don't stand up, I'm not telling you you don't have to invest a penny, but at least stand there and fight with us. We're trying to stop fraud. You understand that, everybody? Stopping fraud. If you've got a problem with that, that means you're a crook. Plain and simple. Because look at your neighbor who goes out there, whatever her name is, some old lady leaves the house, and you know these guys are robbing her money. And you can't care for people. Give me a break. And I'm tired of wasting my time trying to help people and have people trying to piss on William and piss on me. I don't really give a shit. You know, William's a good man and he takes it to heart. I have a fucking black heart after doing this for 25 years. I don't give a flying fuck what anybody says. I'm here to win and kill these fucking guys and throw them in jail. That's what I'm about.
Senator, don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining.
Right. I went to DC. William walked around with me. We did it. I went in every office possible. And my knee was killing me. William was helping me around. But we did it. We did it 3 times, I think. I can't remember. The truck was 15 times. Williams come up to New York to interview the CEO. Williams went to CNBC. I took you out to New Jersey, remember?
I do.
We did everything to try to expose this crime. I introduced Charlie Payne to the people at MMTLP with John Berger. I introduced him to West Christian. I did all that. I tried to help him out as best I can. Those people are doing a great job. William, you got to hook me up with George Donahue next week. And the gentleman who lives in Palmetto. And the gentleman in Palmetto Park Road, I'm going to meet him also.
Oh, you hooked up on the Twitterati?
No,
pages?
I didn't see it yet. No, I didn't see it yet. But I will meet him also. I forgot his name.
It's
maybe Scott. Scott?
No, it's anyway.
Whatever. I'm just saying that I will go out of my way to sit down with him. And if Jeff Easton ever wants to sit down, he can meet us in 18th Avenue in Brooklyn. We love to sit down with him anytime. That meeting will be well attended if he ever wants to show up.
Yeah, thank you, Frank. Zara, that's a good name. My eye surgery's on Wednesday, so I'm a little nervous actually, but it'll work. It'll work. Oh wow! So the Canadian market is open. They don't like Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter.
Well, listen, William, I thank you. Please put it out at 8 o'clock tonight. Pick a time, 8 o'clock. That's late enough. Let everybody sit down, during the game, watch the video like I will do, and we can discuss it on Twitter. We can talk about it tomorrow. This way we go into Friday, at least knowing everyone will know, and not be people who are out tonight or maybe miss it tomorrow morning. 8 o'clock is a perfect time. Put it out tonight, and there you go.
All right.
All right, that's a perfect time. And I look forward to seeing it, like everybody else, and we'll get it around. And everybody, I'll make sure everybody that I know invested, I'll send out 500, 600 emails with it attached to it, and let everybody know.
Okay.
All right, everyone.
Happy
William,
Jimmy
thank
Carter
you very
Day.
much for Thank you for taking the time to get that done. I appreciate it as always, and I'll speak to you later. I'm sorry if I'm yelling at everybody, but this is not the Bash's hotline. I don't want to hear stupid things, that the company's going to be reversed, and it's all bullshit. The company just raised money at $1.50. That's a scumbag trying to get people to bail out or get you nervous. Those are the people that yell fire in a movie theater. Right? Go scream and yell that about Apple Computer or IBM. You'll be arrested in 5 minutes. All right? The big companies don't like seeing that type of false information being posted all over the place. All right? That's what these guys are doing. Small companies don't take their $5 million and then go hire law firms to go chase ghosts. It's too hard to do. But with Trump coming in, we need him to stand up and be the president that he says he wants to be. He saved the crypto industry. Now save the stock market. That's what I want to see. Anyway, William, listen, thank you again, and have a great day, everybody. And I'm cheering for Notre Dame tonight. Have a great night. Thank you, William.
All right. Bye. Thank you.
Call ended.
51st state. Big Orange, I did an interview with Martin Shen now, I don't know how long ago now, probably 2 hours ago, hour and a half ago. But the ground rules were, it had to be short. He didn't want to do it live because he didn't really explain it, but I think it was because of, it's sort of still the Roth Capital period, and then earnings are next week. So it's a time for CEOs to be careful. You don't want to promote your stock, and you don't want to say something wrong. Anyway, he wanted it recorded, and he wants me to put it out either tonight or tomorrow morning, so that because the market's not open today. So I agreed to those ground rules. So I recorded it. It's the first time I've ever recorded something with the intent to publish it. Let's see if I can get it published. I'm going to try. I'm pretty slow at learning new technology, unless it's point and click or click and point or whatever the term is. I'm usually not very good at it. You will be glad that you did the surgery. So you got yours. You got a added extra. You don't need glasses for reading. That's great. That's what I'm hoping. I hope I picked the right lens. So many choices, and there's a new one. What was it called? can't remember. I can almost remember. Anyway, the surgeon told me, let's not do that. Let's, because he's only put it in a few patients. And anyway, anything will be better than this. I can't see. So, but I would like to, it'd be interesting if it works like it does for other people. It'd be interesting to see clearly in the distance and to read. That would be amazing. That'd be the first time that truly, I think, in my life that I've been able, although I haven't been wearing glasses for the last 4, 5, 6 years, but my distance isn't perfect. Anyway, too much about me. Okay. You did the basic. Oh, wow. 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 The basic is good because they've done it so much. All right, I want to check this out on, I don't know how to find that out, but Rail, let's see, RAIL stock. Price. That's not the right symbol. Oh, that's NASDAQ. All right, so I got to do rail.cn, I think. .cn. That's not it. I didn't do it right. I got a quote for Canadian Rail Company. Here, Yahoo Finance. Rail.cn. Yeah, wow. 60 cents Canadian. Up 11%. You're right. So wonder what that translates. Canadian to US. 69 cents. So that works out, Jeff, if this calculation is correct, and if the arbitrage is 0, that works out to 42 cents in the US market. It might be finally time for that to, I was a little early. Let me see, 6 months. Yeah. On the Canadian, it looks to be breaking out. Well, we'll see. That's Railtown AI. All right, let me see. There were some questions I skipped because Ham wasn't going to answer, but I'm not going to get caught. If I continue doing this, which is an open question for me, I'm just not. I think I've been in the penalty box. I think I've answered a lot of personal questions. I think I've probably talked too much about things. But I'm just not going to get in a debate with the boys from Burroughs Park using different code names about whether or not this goes on or whether or not companies deserve this. This is a massive destruction of the United States financial markets, and we're doing it to ourselves. Capital will flow to where it's safest. It might end up being China and Russia. But right now, our middle class, our all of our companies, biotech, technology, oil and gas, are being destroyed by a active collusion and planned industrial scale theft coordinated by certain big boys on Wall Street, certain funds with their offshore counterparts. And I think the intermediaries are guys they trust, guys like them. And, oh, you can't say that, you're being whatever. I'm not being. I'm just pointing out that if you want to investigate, look, if you're a CEO and you're trying to fight this and you don't have any other information to go on, maybe you should pick an investment bank outside of New York. Or maybe you should, there was a security company called Keen Securities. I don't know if he's still around. Maybe just pick an Irish Catholic securities company. I don't know, but you got to think outside of the box. You got to get outside of these guys. And I just don't want to keep talking about does it exist and fighting the negatives. Look, if you want to, like this guy Chris just said, well, everything Ham does doesn't work. Well, yeah, okay. It could be. But I don't think that means that the overall conspiracy doesn't happen. And trying to get any one stock to work out is very difficult. And personally, I've made it very clear what I think. Look, if somebody gave me a wad of money right now, and I mean a small wad, I wouldn't, with big money, I know where I'll go. Big money, I'll go to gold and silver. Silver probably first, definitely first now. Oil and gas projects, mining projects. I'm fascinated by filtration companies. I think in the future, women in particular will lead the way, demanding water to be filtered so the microplastics are gone, demanding fish that grow in filtered water, and demanding air that's filtered from the radioactive fallout from Fukushima, for example. And there was an earthquake on the other side of Japan, and there's no way that the reactors that were there, the ground moved 80 feet or 80 meters up vertical. There's no way that they didn't have some sort of disaster, but it's not in the news. Oh boy, what's the dream? He's running in his dream, catching up with other dogs maybe. But for a small amount of money, I think the stock I'd buy tomorrow is Railtown AI. I like the other ones. What? Oh boy. He still runs in his dreams. I like all the other ones that we've talked about. I still like, I think Next Trip, NTRP, could double or triple. And that's a good story. I think anyway, we'll see tomorrow. I like Nixie very much. there should be news on Logic, I think, pretty soon, next week or so. We'll find out in the news story what the damage is in terms of whether or not the company coming in is working with the shorts or not, whether or not there's a reverse split, whether or not there's additional companies are indeed going to come in. It's a shame they weren't able to get all 7 companies to act at once, so that we were looking at $1 billion coming in the reverse, rather than, maybe the 2 companies there that they've already announced, to my memory, are about 110 million combined. Anyway, we'll find out about that. But I like Railtown AI, 60 cents on the Canadian exchange. Previous close was 54 cents. The days range 54 cents to 62 cents Canadian. The 52-week range, it was as high as 84 cents. Wow. I'm going to see something while you're stuck with me. I'm going to see if I can find something. Let's see. Let me look first. Rather than. What's it called? Partnerships. All right, let's see. All right, let's look this together. Let's look at this together, and then I'll probably sign off, because I've got some things to do and feed my dog. It's cold. But Railtown AI just, well, let me see if you can see this. Yeah, you can. Railtown AI just went into a partnership or an agreement with this group, AI Partnerships Corporation. Let's see what it is. It's 150 companies providing AI-enabled products, focus on key industrial sectors, 1,500 clients served by our affiliates. Adopting emerging technology can provide challenges to buyers and sellers, limited experience. This is the challenge with AI. We are here to bridge the gap between the buyers and the providers of AI. All right. Network technology, machine learning, computer vision, NLP, automation, data management, data processing, data engineering, data analytics, data science, speech recognition, robotics, VR, cybersecurity, neural networks, deep learning, cloud hosting. How can we help? Operational efficiency, customer retention, customer acquisition. Oh, the list goes on. The possibilities are indeed endless. Just a few of the 1,500 clients served by our network: Allstate, PG&E, Volvo, McDonald's, Northwestern Mu, FDA, Verizon, Coca-Cola, Pacific Life, Comcast, Nissan, Nationwide, PwC, Royal Bank, RBC Royal Bank, Bed Bath & Beyond, AT&T, Ameritrade, MGM, Bank of America, Sbarro, Samsung, JW Marriott, United Health Care, Ascensus, American Express, GM, Walmart, St. Regis, Sir St. John Smythe, Pizza Hut, National Geographic. All right, let's go up to the top. About. Let's see the team. Here's the team. Michael Nobrega, former president and CEO of Ontario Municipal Employees Retirement, one of Canada's largest pension funds, 100 billion in assets. That's good. Dr. Tom Core Carl, in love. Well, he's a doctor. Patrick Horgan, he's a founder, COO of IBM Canada. John Ruffalo, founder, Mavericks Private Equity. The advisory board, looks pretty good. Sherry Shannon Vanstone. Leadership, Dr. Tom Carr, Gary Chang, Mark Ellingson, Stephen Cuthrell, Bob Albert, a couple other guys. Anyway, this is who they just lined up with at Railtown AI. And so they're moving forward. Just imagine if Railtown's technology is as good as their presentations have said, and they're selling. It's a huge market out there. A lot of those guys look like they're either wealthy themselves or well connected. So I like Railtown. All right, I'm going to go Barbara. Jimmy Carter was a terrible president. Joe Biden was even worse. I don't know, Clark, how old you are. I thought Jimmy Carter was a very good president. His fault maybe was he micromanaged, but he did a lot of things that you give credit to Ronald Reagan. Jimmy Carter deregulated the airlines industry. He deregulated oil and gas, although it was a little complicated, but he did that. He deregulated energy. He put a lot of tight fiscal policies in place. He was truly socially liberal and fiscally conservative, like Republicans say. He appointed Paul Volcker, and Reagan was there, but Jimmy Carter appointed Paul Volcker. Inflation came in under Richard Nixon. Well, probably started with Johnson, but it really came in under Richard Nixon, who took the dollar off the gold standard. But the oil crises may have been triggered by the fact that the dollar lost its standing vis-a-vis gold, and inflation really ramped up under Nixon and Gerald Ford. You probably don't remember his campaign. Richard Nixon put wage and price controls on the economy. Richard Nixon put wage and price controls. No wonder there was a burst of inflation. That's like putting the lid on boiling pasta. It bubbles over. And then Gerald Ford came out with his whip inflation now buttons. Win, W-I-N. And so, you blame it on Carter, but you got to look back to those presidents is where it started, and the oil shocks. Then Carter controversially pulled the United States team out of the Olympics because Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. Well, I felt sorry for those Olympians, but we didn't go to war. We didn't go to war. And then the hostages were taken in Tehran under Carter's watch. And so, fair enough, you have to blame him, I guess. But the overthrow of the previous, I don't know if it was a Shah, but overthrow and the installation of Reza Pahlavi was previous presidents. It was the CIA and it was previous presidents. And it built up the resentment all those years in the streets of Iran. And that wasn't Jimmy Carter's fault. Jimmy did accept Reza Pahlavi into, I think it was New York City, for cancer treatment. And that might have, but that was a humane thing to do. But the rescue mission Jimmy Carter started failed. A helicopter went down. Was that Jimmy Carter, the president's fault, or was that operationally the fault? It was a daring rescue. It wasn't war. It wasn't war, but it was an attempt to rescue the hostages. It was daring, and it might have worked. It didn't. Then, Clark, Ronald Reagan and his team, and it's treasonous, by the way. It's treason. They reportedly, through maybe Oliver North, they went behind the scenes and made a deal with the Iranians during the election and said, wait until Ronald Reagan is president, you'll get a better deal. That is treasonous, if history ever proves that to be. So that nightly count and the Rose Garden strategy of how many days the hostages were in, that may have been treason on the part of operatives for Ronald Reagan. The hostages could have come out a lot sooner. But I admire Jimmy Carter. Not a single hostage's life was lost. And he put his whole presidency on the line for that. Jimmy Carter never once said malaise. Never once said malaise. Now, maybe he misread the energy situation in the United States, but he changed it. He put us on coal, nuclear power, which I don't like, and I don't like coal that much. But he established the predicate for a future strong energy system. And then Ronald Reagan came in like Margaret Thatcher did in her country and just turned on what they called the free market. But I think a lot of that was the work Jimmy Carter started. Jimmy Carter did give the Panama Canal away. And you could have some arguments there that I would agree with. Jimmy Carter, through stubbornness, through intelligence, through bullying, through perseverance, Jimmy Carter got Israel and Egypt to sign peace agreement. He got peace for Israel and peace for Egypt. Sadat was shot for his courage, assassinated. Menachem Begin who in the eyes of the world, much of the world, was a terrorist, and his party killed a bunch of people. Maybe he didn't do it personally when he was younger. Menachem Begin showed courage, and Jimmy Carter got the Camp David peace accords signed. I think that was a breakthrough, a complete breakthrough. Yes, he spent time scheduling the White House tennis courts. That was probably silly. Yes, he pissed off Ted Kennedy. That was probably silly. He made strides, but I can't remember. I don't know if it was in the military but Jimmy Carter was not a racist. And he, more than most Southern politicians, had no hint of racism. I'm not sure you can say that, by the way, about Hillary Clinton. Maybe Bill, maybe. But I'm not sure. The way Bill treated people like he's doing them a favor, the plantation. But you couldn't say that about Joe Biden. I don't know. I think Jimmy Carter was a much better president than you give him credit for. When he left office, our national debt, and this is by memory, was $800 billion. $800 billion. When Reagan left, he more than doubled it, almost tripled it, I think. And then Bush, maybe including Bush. And then the biggest achievement of Jimmy Carter is he enshrined in U.S. policy, and it affected the Soviet Union, and it is still a cornerstone of U.S. policy. Jimmy Carter put human rights, all races, all sexes, all colors. He put human rights on the front of any U.S. foreign agreement, diplomatic military agreement. Jimmy Carter championed worldwide human rights as president. So I just don't agree with you. All right. Hard to believe he gave up the Panama Canal. Well, there was a treaty. You got to study history. I don't remember the details, so I've got to go back and read it. But it was a pre-existing. I think we had 100 years. We built it, and it was ours for 100 years, something like that. But and I think Trump's making a mistake too. The Panama Canal today is small. It's too small. There's not enough water. It's working at diminished capacity. And you know what's happening, Clark? But, you might not. The Chinese are helping Nicaragua build a canal now that's bigger and is wetter. We'll see if that actually happens. But the Panama Canal is not what it used to be. I wouldn't personally be upset that he gave back the canal to Panama. I'd be upset that presidents from Bill Clinton to George W. Bush to Barack Obama to Joe Biden completely ignored our security. So I just read an article that Joe Biden's family took $30 million from the Chinese. Is it any surprise that the Chinese control the canal? We focused our money, trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars, on bombing deserts and assaulting mountains because of George W. Bush. And Barack Obama was no better. No better. So it's not Jimmy Carter. But anyway, you can be a one-issue dude. I don't know when DJT will go up, but they've gotten it successfully down. If I had money, I'd buy calls on it. I think once Trump is in office, I don't know that Trump being in office is going to cause it to go up. But what might be interesting is, to me, is an alignment with Twitter. How far off could that be? A buyout or a merger. I think it'll go up. I think the stock market, everybody's calling for the market to be down. There's a lot of nerves about bonds right now. Justifiably so. Interest rates are going up. And I've told you all along, the Fed can't control those rates. Everyone thinks they can. They can't. I think the Fed, though, is going to step in and be buying everything. Maybe not mortgages, but they're going to buy all the bonds they can to keep interest rates down, unless they want to sabotage Trump. But we're fighting for people not to give up on the dollar. So if I'm right that the Fed keeps the bond market from collapsing, because once it gets out of control, they won't be able to stop it. It'll be, pardon my comparison, it'll be like wildfires. So if the Fed starts buying everything, I think the stock market is going to go much higher after this pause. And I think DJT could get triggered in that time frame. When? It's hard to say. I think soon. I think the stock market's going to turn around fairly soon. What's soon? 1 week to 6 weeks, something like that. Inflation was 13% when Jimmy Carter left office, and it was all his fault. It was all his fault. He was in office for 4 years. But again, Clark, the monetary policies, the guns and butter policies of Lyndon Baines Johnson, the price and wage controls, and the fact that that Richard Nixon, whose birthday is today, took the United States off the gold standard and was a shock in the value of the US dollar, led to oil price surges overnight, OPEC. That was Richard Nixon. And inflation went up under Richard Nixon. It didn't go from a low level to whatever you're saying on Jimmy Carter. It wasn't Jimmy Carter that caused that inflation. Nixon, and then Ford. But what did Jimmy Carter do to fight inflation, Clark? He revitalized our energy regime. he deregulated it, although it had like two tiers, but he deregulated it. He turned us to coal and nuclear, which I'm not a big fan. And he appointed Paul Volcker. Jimmy Carter ushered in a period of higher interest rates to break the back of inflation. That was Jimmy Carter that appointed Paul Volcker. Remember the helicopter, And was Jimmy Carter flying that helicopter? Was Jimmy Carter flying that helicopter? And did Jimmy Carter create the windstorm, the sandstorm? It was a daring rescue mission that failed, but he chose that rescue mission rather than what the war hawks were saying, bomb Iran, the John McCains, go in and invade. I like that Jimmy Carter didn't turn Iran into a parking lot. Jimmy Carter was weak. And Ronald Reagan stomped him in the ground? No, he didn't. Ronald Reagan came in, and in the debate, he didn't acquit himself very well in the first, maybe one of the others, but he did get him with the, there you go again. Well, there you go again. And Ronald Reagan, I think in retrospect, did some good things. What Ronald Reagan did, like Trump is trying to do, is he showed an optimistic outlook. But Ronald Reagan benefited from a lot of what Jimmy Carter put in place. And Ronald Reagan he was a spender. He primed the pump. Ronald Reagan spent. He used government money to create the high-tech industry in California and elsewhere. Jimmy Carter increased defense spending, by the way, to the highest, to my memory, to the highest it had ever been. Now, Ronald Reagan further cut regulations. I think he cut tax brackets. To his credit, Jimmy Carter worked on the SALT agreements, the negotiations with the Soviet Union, but Ronald Reagan did wipe out a whole group of missiles, and I give him great credit for that. Ronald Reagan did meet with Gorbachev in Reykjavik. But Jimmy Carter was a strong man and a strong president, in my opinion. But we'll have to, after we're all dead and gone, we'll see what history said. Now, Ronald Reagan stomped Walter Mondale in the ground. The election of Reagan over Carter was headed to victory, except for the hostage taking. And like I've already said, the Reagan team made a treasonous deal with the Ayatollah that the hostages should not be released until Reagan came into office. And then when Reagan was in office, Reagan did a deal with Iran. I think Israel was involved, and the Contras. It was illegal as hell. Felonies, all of that. Somehow, shucks, Ronald Reagan got away with it. But that was criminal on a scale that few presidents have ever done. Dealing. Reagan said, I'm not going to deal with, like, he dealt with them. He made a deal. The Marines in Beirut blew up under Reagan. I don't know how tough Reagan was. It's all image. Jimmy Carter did not understand how the American economy worked. He was a horrible, thank you. I've just gone through that. Jimmy Carter was great. Let's not mention his civil rights stance. I agree with you, KYP. Jimmy Carter stood for civil rights, and he stood up in the South. We call it now African American rights, but he did that from his core from a young age when it was hard to do, when it wasn't, stylish. Jimmy Carter was a courageous man on race. Courageous. He stood with Andrew Young and the rest. I think Jimmy Carter was obviously I'm in a minority, but I think he was a tremendous president. I think that's right. Jimmy Carter came out. He didn't get rich coming out of office. He didn't do a deal. He did some books, but he moved back to his home. And KYP, the reason I don't talk so much about his post-presidency, that's what everyone says. Oh, he was good after his presidency. I think he was good as president. I would have loved to see a second term for him. But he did a lot of good in his post-presidency. Yeah, I'll get it out tonight. Oh, Ronald Reagan was simple-minded in some ways. I think Ronald Reagan stuck to his guns and had a certainty of what he was, a broader mission. And it's undeniable that had a leadership effect in the United States. But Jimmy Carter went to the United States Naval Academy, and that's a free ride. But he got one of the only seats of that, I think, out of the South, but it was certainly out of Georgia. And he studied under Admiral Rickover, and he studied nuclear engineering, I believe he was a nuclear engineer. And I believe Jimmy Carter possibly was, I don't know how you measure smarts, but everyone says Bill Clinton was smart. I think Jimmy Carter may have been smarter than Bill Clinton. Jimmy Carter was whip smart. Very smart man. And he worked hard all of his life, and he drove himself to work hard every single day. What that guy, when he meets St. Peter, if the Baptists have St. Peter, he's not going to have to make an excuse for a single wasted day in his life. And I agree with KYP. He did it on behalf of everyone. Yeah, he was a good human being even after leaving. So was his wife. I think he had the courage. Ronald Reagan played all the music and did all the pomp and circumstance. Jimmy Carter did away with that, carried his own suitcase famously, and did away with the hail to the chief, as I remember. The problem Jimmy Carter didn't realize, simpletons like Clark, they want that glorification of their president, and they want to be in that glow because they want to be reassured. Jimmy Carter had the courage to stand against the crowd, and the things I've talked about, there's many more things he did as president internationally. I just can't, I can't remember everything. He appointed a lot of minorities and I think women. I can't remember right now as I'm talking. I sat at a restaurant right next to Ham Jordan up in Adams Morgan. Richard Nixon's took us over the gold standard. Yeah, well, but it was Carter's fault that the dollar fell and the oil producing countries raised the price of oils in a series of oil shocks because the dollar was falling. That's Jimmy Carter's fault. Clark, we weren't drilling because of the restrictions, and I think it was under Nixon, but there were restrictions in our oil, and particularly in natural gas. Carter came and got rid of those regulations. He created two tiers, which was confusing. So we had natural gas selling at like 10 cents and selling at $2 an MCF. But, there's no perfect way to unbundle things. But Jimmy Carter deregulated the airline industry. Do you know why you can get your butt on an airline for $200 from here to London? Jimmy Carter. He deregulated the airlines. He didn't know what he was doing with the industry. You got to stop reading bumper stickers. Yes, Richard Nixon. But when he does price fixing, that's Jimmy Carter's problem. Do you know what price suppression, wage and price control? The pressures build up. When they take it off, boom, everything goes up. Plenty of blame there. You finally see it. Plenty of blame to go around. But it happened on Jimmy Carter's watch. What was inflation under Ronald Reagan for the first 2 years? How high did interest rates go under Ronald Reagan? How did the economy and the stock market, for that fact, react in the first 2 years of Ronald Reagan? You don't blame him for that. I personally witnessed the implosion of the van conversion industry. You're personally upset with him. Well, that's true. He reduced the speed limit from 75 down to 55, and big cars, big vans, RVs, those were out of favor. But you know what? He started us on a trend that we went from driving automobiles that got 4, 5, 6 miles to the gallon. 4, 5, 6 miles to the gallon. We're now comfortably in the high 20s miles per gallon. That started with his changes and his attempt to change our habits. I think God gave us another chance at a lot of oil, but I think I actually think it's a failing under Trump. I think we should be building out our cities and towns as places to live, and maybe have electric cars inside the town and inside the cities. I think our highways should still be maybe for trucking, but we need to invest in our rail system and our waterways, both inside, I don't know what it's called, inside the land, rivers and canals, as well as the seaports, so that in the future, when oil is scarce, we can ship goods. I think maybe you shift to a time where automobiles are used to get from New York to Cincinnati, but inside of New York, you use a different kind of transportation, whether it's automated or it's on tracks. But we have to use less oil. We have no choice. There isn't enough oil to continue the 1970s pattern of oil consumption. And Donald Trump is wrong. The United States may be standing on more black gold, as he calls it, than any place in the world. I don't know that that's true, but maybe there's, he's not a liar. There must be evidence to that effect. But that's not the issue. The issue is how much energy how much energy does it require to get energy out? It used to be in Saudi Arabia, you could drill one of those wells, or in Texas. You drill a well and the oil comes gushing out. You might spend 2 barrels of oil to discover and then produce hundreds of barrels of oil. That's a nice ratio, maybe thousands. But in the last mania, driven by the idiots on Wall Street for fees, of tight shale drilling, the energy in to energy out, depending on who you read. There's a gentleman who I had dinner with a couple of times, have seen him in person, and I'm forgetting his name, of course. I can see him. Art Berman. It got down to 2 to 3 barrels of oil spent to find, for every 1 barrel of oil spent. Well, let me do it differently. If you spent 3 barrels of oil, 2 barrels of oil, you might find 1 to 2 barrels of oil. That's not it either. It was in the positive, but barely. All right, so maybe you spend 1 to 2 barrels of oil, and you might find 2 to 3 to 4 barrels of oil. That's not fantastic. It's expensive. You get on a treadmill, and let me put it this way: when you spend 1 barrel of oil and you recover 1 barrel of oil, the rest of the oil will stay in the ground. It'll be there. We'll be standing above it, but it'll stay there. It doesn't make economic sense. And that's where we're headed. Now, there are some technologies, nanotechnologies in particular, they hope to improve. There's a company that I'm trying to raise money for, private company, that has a steering system for drilling in those sands horizontally that takes tier 2 assets to be tier 1 assets because it stays in the zone 100% of the time, or 99% of the time, and gets it all. But these aren't revolutionary technologies. When one barrel is spent to get one barrel out, the rest of the oil stays in the ground. China's ahead of us. Europe is ahead of us. Under Donald Trump, we keep driving. Drive. Big. Under George W. Bush, we have the Arnold Schwarzenegger drive those big Jeeps. Well, we'll see. We'll see if we can keep doing that. They were taken under Carter's watch because he was weak. It's not true. It's not true. It may be that when the Shah left with the revolution, he left and he went to, I think his first stop was Egypt. It might have been Saudi Arabia, but I think it was then Egypt. And they kicked him out. I'm straining my memory. He might have gone to Paris, but they kicked him out. And I remember a time when he was just adrift, flying. And so Jimmy Carter accepted him into New York for, was it pancreatic cancer, something like that. That may have triggered the takeover of the Iranian embassy. It's not because he was weak. Do you think that they blew up 495 Marines in Beirut under Ronald Reagan when Ronald Reagan was warned not to put them there? That was because Ronald Reagan was weak? You don't think that? I do. But you don't think that. You don't think Ronald Reagan was dumb? I do. But anyway, the hostages were released before Reagan even became president. Check that out. You check that out. You check that out. I believe they made the deal. And you might be quibbling over the swearing in versus winning the election. You might be doing that. The deal was, once he's elected, we'll make a better deal with you. Don't let the hostages out before the election so Jimmy Carter can win. That was election interference. It was making a deal with a foreign power. It was treason. But I don't know if I would have done better than Jimmy Carter. The couple of things that I think I have to admit that was bad about Jimmy Carter. He micromanaged apparently in the White House, and I can see where that would piss off his team. And he didn't sell that bigger picture like Ronald Reagan did. But I think, on the other hand, what good has it done? We've lived in a fantasy now for 30 years. We've financialized everything. Our industry is gutted. Our electric grid is shite. Our military has been downhill since the Iraq War. Our standing in the world is collapsed. There's a lot of things that went wrong. So is it better that we went down Ronald Reagan's path or Jimmy Carter's? Well, we'll never know, because that's history. You don't know. But I'm not sure that the blessings that you see in Ronald Reagan's presidency are all there. And then we got this, to me, quisling presidency of Bill Clinton. And I'm talking as a Democrat right now. Clinton was the best thing Republicans ever got, the third way. Anyway, I think Bill Clinton benefited a lot from Ronald Reagan's investment, government spending to invest in companies for technology, which Ronald Reagan did. I think Bill Clinton got a lot of benefit of that as those technologies came to bear and lowered cost and expanded productivity. Bill Clinton also benefited from the fact that oil prices went under $10. Oil went down under Bill Clinton. That was a massive boost to the economy, but he didn't do anything to cause that to happen. The Saudis went after the godless Soviet Union, but so did Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter put in limits to the computers and the technology that could be sold to the Soviets. So he set back their oil and their industrial progression. I don't know how long, but he set it back. That was Jimmy Carter. But you say he was weak. I think Jimmy Carter was a strong man. I'd have to look it up, but I think when we built the Panama Canal, I think there was a 100-year treaty. I think. I don't want to look it up right now because I want to sign off. But I think that 100-year treaty expired. And the issue was, were we going to honor the treaty or not? Jimmy Carter decided to honor it. What does it matter if we own the canal or not? What we should have done with our military from Ronald Reagan onward, instead of getting into helping the Contras in Nicaragua, getting into that, I forget the Iran-Contra scandal. We should have been building our relationships and our military presence, and I'm sure we did. But particularly under George W. Bush, we and the neocons, we got distracted and we stopped looking at what China was doing. This was predictable. Of course, I don't write a newsletter, but I predicted it. Before that movie Top Gun stopped its run, I had a date and I went to the movie. And I came out and I said, oh my God, we're going to war. And then it was on my mind a long time. And I told her, we are going to go to war and China is going to economically wipe us off the floor. Because while we squander our money in land wars in Asia, China's going to make economic agreements around the globe. Oh, you're crazy. You're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. We took our eye off the ball. It's not that we gave up the Panama Canal. It's the fact that we ignore South America, Central America, as if they're never going to go dance with another girl. Well, guess what China does? They come in. They don't care if you're a dictator or if you take the money and put it in Switzerland, but they build the bridges, they build the port, and they go to the gold mine and they build the infrastructure. And it's all for China. China's not doing it for anybody. But we let it. We supported China. We under Bill Clinton, under Ronald Reagan. Well, I don't know about Ronald Reagan, but the NAFTA agreements started, to my memory, under George H.W. Bush, and were, I don't know if it started under Reagan, but Clinton got them done. Anyway, blame it on Jimmy Carter, Clark. It's easier. Monty Python has a song. It's easier just to have a simple answer for everything, black and white. Monty Python's song is How Sweet It Is to Be an Idiot. It is pretty sweet just to have a simple answer. Now that is circular reasoning right there. Earlier, you told me he was a failed president because of the helicopter mission. Now you're telling me the mission was a complete failure because he was a complete failure. You know, you should get married and argue with your wife. That would take up 40 years of both of your lives before you got anywhere. You come from the camp of the ends justify the means. You should go sign up for the Clinton campaign, or go work with the communists. Ends justify the means, Clark. I can see where you get your character from. Damn. I think I've answered. I want to move on. You will be very happy after your eye surgery. I had both eyes done. I have near perfect distance vision, toric lens in one eye. Well, you know, Kim, I'm looking for. It's weird. I can see in the distance the bright light. I can see it, and when I could drive without glasses, and that just happened in the last 4 or 5 years. But to be honest, there's a bit of an astigmatism. But I can read perfectly, and I miss that. I don't want to miss that. I mean, I like to be able to read. But Kim, it'll be amazing if I can see in the distance without glasses. That'll be amazing. We'll see what happens. Yeah, you can go on. I wrote it down. You can go to at ham 59591 shorts, at ham 59591 shorts on Twitter, at ham 59591 shorts on Twitter, and DM him, and he's there. Here's something. Well, you might have an argument with Ronald Reagan's so-called supply side economic. You might have an argument there. But I don't like the trend of deregulation in the financial markets. That's what we're living with now. Ronald Reagan started the complete change in journalism. Bill Clinton accelerated it. Ronald Reagan started the complete lack of regulation in the financial markets, Bill Clinton put an accelerant on it. Ronald Reagan tried to get rid of welfare. Bill Clinton got rid of welfare as we know it. Ronald Reagan wanted to tighten up prisons. Bill Clinton put in the Clinton crime bill that jailed people for getting caught smoking pot 3 times. He destroyed Black, African American, and poor white Asian. He destroyed American families. Bill Clinton put in prisons that are for profit. He started the for-profit schooling system. Anyway, you can stick with your love of Ronald Reagan. I'm not a big fan of Ronald Reagan. Inflation went up, Clark. I don't know if you got a problem listening. Inflation and interest rates went up under Ronald Reagan. The person who broke the back of inflation was Paul Volcker. Paul Volcker. Jimmy Carter appointed Paul Volcker. Ronald Reagan reappointed him. You got to give him credit for that. Oh, God. You need a wife to argue with. You guys could just say the same thing back and forth for, I wouldn't expect DJT to go up because Trump takes, I don't either. I don't know about 1 to 2 years either. I don't know. I guess the risk is it's put in blind trust. Is Truth Social duplicative of Twitter? I don't know. Truth Social came out because Twitter was censored when women ran it and Democrats ran it. Now Musk runs it. He overpaid for it. But now it seems to be mostly a level playing field. Facebook's even going without censorship. I guess they'll get rid of the women. Now, Musk did hire a woman from somewhere, so I don't know. Anyway, the censorship's going away. So does Truth Social really provide that alluring an alternative? I don't know. I think Musk could buy out DJT in some sort of stock swap, that some structure that might cause a crisis amongst shorts. Simple-minded Jimmy Carter was appointed to the Naval Academy. Well, that's true. He was appointed, but he had to have good grades. Yeah, that's fair enough. He was a nuclear engineer, and I totally agree. He could have been one of our smartest presidents. It was his moral compass that made him lose the presidency. Well, that's how a lot of people feel. I admit I'm in the minority on praising Jimmy Carter as a president. I admit that. He created the great malaise. I don't know. He never used that word, but I remember he wore the sweater and he turned down the thermostat. But Richard, you know what Jimmy Carter did? He installed solar panels on the top of the White House. Jimmy Carter installed solar panels on the top of the White House. Ronald Reagan came in, ripped them out. What today is the emphasis around the world? Solar power. I'd say Jimmy Carter was ahead of his time. Yeah, I'd have to. I don't know, Richard. My memory is we built it, but it was under a treaty. But you're right. 20,000, 40,000. I don't know if it was 40, but a lot of people died building that canal. Malaria, it's horrible. Horrible. So we have to decide, are we, we're an empire for sure. Should we go take Panama by military force? Should we take Greenland by military force? Should we take Canada by military force? Oh. Billy Beer. I remember Billy Beer. I remember his mother too, and I remember Amy Carter going to public school. APS 71. Don't give up yet on logic. I just don't think logic's going to be the huge home run that I don't know if I thought it was going to be a home run, but I thought it could get to 16, 17, 18 cents as a trade, and maybe to 40, 50 cents as a longer term hold, with maybe the potential, to someday get to $1. I don't see that happening, but I might have been overreacting on being totally negative. We'll find out. Happy New Year, Tom. I don't know if Carter would have let it happen. Remember, the financial deregulation started under Ronald Reagan, but it was accelerated under Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton is who took the teeth out of the regulators. He bought Bob Rubin's view that Wall Street could police itself. That was Bill Clinton. I don't think Jimmy Carter would have allowed that. Wow, you're not allowed to buy finger. That's interesting. Maybe something's up. I don't think so, though. They'll get it fixed. Well, it's an interesting point. Other presidents would have let the hostages be killed in some sort of glorious victory on the field. I see Carter as strong that he didn't take that path. He knew the opprobrium he would receive because he wanted to save the lives. But that's me. You're trying to explain to a liberal how energy dependent lowers inflation. Whatever. It makes no sense. Maybe after Sir, I'll become a conservative. Is this a new stock? LGBTQ? What's the name of the stock? Personally, I think LGBTQ needs a vowel. Not on the end, in the middle. In the middle. And also, in all these movements lately, the women always come to the front. My biggest question out there is, how did white women become victims ahead of African Americans enslaved? How do white women come to the front, the L? How? White women weren't racist. White women weren't slave owners. white women didn't abuse minorities. It was just the white straight men. Was it all white straight men? Was it the white straight men in the hollows of Kentucky? Was it the Irish? Was it the Italians? Was it the Russian Jews? Was it the Lithuanians? Did they come to America in some sort of powerful white male position? Probably the Brits, a certain class of Brits, maybe some Germans. I don't know. I wasn't alive. Max, I've made my decision. Everyone, just be careful. Take advice from. That's true, Alex. And you shouldn't buy a stock expecting it to go to 100 or 500 and think that it's risk free. You shouldn't do that. All right, I'm going to sign off. I've got to feed my dog, run to the hardware store, and I haven't eaten all day, so I'm going to do all those things. Thank you for tuning in. Happy Jimmy Carter Day. And somebody said at the beginning, let's pray for everybody in LA. Even those wealthy people, it's just devastating to lose your house. I know. And lose belongings. I actually know that too. I pray for all of them. Pray for peace in the world. And we'll see you down the highway.